All right, now we're live. So I just wanted to have a hangout, just because I don't even have a subject to talk about. I don't know wherever the wind goes.
I just have to take my I think I've taken it off. Yeah, I'm driving my car down the freeway down here at Brisbane at the moment, and I'm trying not to. I'm trying to dodge the semi trailers at the same time. Oh, it's fun.
I
Living
bet it
dangerously.
is. I saw you post
Hey, the
earlier.
general. Hey, who's in the house? The general's in the house.
I'm in the
Yeah.
house.
All right. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Paul?
Fantastic. Doing well. Doing good.
That's good.
It's a pleasure to see you again.
Did you know about the flu virus that's spreading through Australia? Like it's hit the western parts pretty badly.
I've heard some. I've heard some of it in the media. I don't pay too much attention to what the media says, so I'm kind of immune to anything they say in large part. But yeah, now that's come from you as a legitimate source, I'll take it more serious.
Yeah, it's because I my family came down pretty hard with it last week, and like last Friday was when it hit me, and then I only got over it. Well, my immune system's pretty good. I got over it on Sunday, but it's just that lingering effects has just continued all week, even up to today. And hey guys, I've just introduced Tanya from the prior.
Tanya,
Uh,
hey.
yeah, so here she is.
What's up?
Nothing much, nothing much. But congratulations on you stepping out of darkness and into the light.
Thanks.
Welcome,
Oh, Paul, you don't know. So Tanya, Paul, Tanya, um,
Tanya. How you doing?
she's a newborn theist, not a Christian, but newborn theist.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Okay.
That's a
Well,
nice way of putting
she may need a few nappy changes in the process.
it. Tanya, that's just typical Australian slang right there.
Very true.
So Tanya, maybe could you like go through your because you did mention that you were a Christian once, and were you brought up as a Christian, and then I guess what led you into atheism? Um, because that would be interesting actually, if you can share that.
Yeah, I was brought up a Christian pretty much my whole life, and I became kind of a fundamentalist in my mid 20s or so, and that was my own doing, my own brainwashing. Did that all by myself via the internet and whatnot, and that really messed me up for a while, and ultimately probably played a huge part in why I ended up deconverting from Christianity. The anxiety and everything else that was just becoming too much for me to handle. So I deconverted for that reason, amongst others. You know, I looked into evolution and ultimately ended up deciding that that was the truth, that, you know, the universe was billions of years old, and I could not believe that the Bible was true and also believe in evolution. For me personally, it didn't jive together. So I had to make a decision, and so I decided to believe in evolution. Therefore, I decided not to believe in God anymore, or the God of the Bible, at least. And that was about 2.5 years ago.
Oh, right, okay. And I guess in the meantime, then you had some pretty unfortunate circumstances take place. Um, you know, you mentioned death to someone, and was that would you say that that's the fundamental reason why you became not a Christian, but like a theist, or like a reaching out to say like a higher source as to try and explain this phenomenon?
It wasn't really me. I haven't even reached out to God, really. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that. I have throughout this 2.5 years. I have many times actually, but lately I haven't. It wasn't me, you know, seeking anything really. It was just, I was just having all kinds of coincidences happen to me. And it was a familiar kind of feeling. And I guess, I mean, that's really what did it for me. And so that's why I,
Okay.
decided to come out and just admit that, yes, I am a theist, because I do believe that there's something going on, and, there must be some kind of a God, I guess I have to call it a God, who interacts with me. And if the God is interacting with me, then I guess that makes me a theist.
Right, but now, would you say that you're closer to a deist position? Because a theist in this sense would be a personal God, so to speak. Or would you say that this being is interacting with you, even though you don't put a name to it? So hence it's personal, but it's not directly personal. To give you this hint of, hey, I'm here, sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a deist. I don't think deism makes any sense at all. That's just my opinion. So, yeah, definitely theism.
Oh, that's good. I was an atheist up until 2009, and ever since then I've I had a sort of similar experience to what you have. Mine was more actually science-based, and then maybe a year or two later, I then gave my faith to Jesus. So yeah, that
Jim,
in a
you
nutshell,
never
that's
really
me.
go into, you never go into the meaty details of how that happened. You just, I don't know, you always give a synopsis. I want to hear the story. Tonight is the night.
well,
Today's
yeah, that's.
today.
So yeah, for me, it's to do with because this will be a great because I'm a scientist, Tonya. Mine is a methodology of being skeptical no matter what.
Oh, cool.
So that's why I asked you that question, which is, I hope it was thoughtful, the efficiency of the revelation of God. So for me, tangible evidence is required. In fact, that's what you said. You said if there's any evidence for, in this case, heaven, then you'd believe in a Christian God. So for me, tangible evidence of, say, the incarnation was a requirement. And the so-called contradictions between science and the Bible, this might sound like an audacious claim, but it actually vanished. The more I looked at the actual text, like the Genesis 1 text, in light of evolution, and they both fit. So that kind of spooked me out as well, and so hence all of that led into my faith. But for you, I guess since you're only just starting out, obviously this is something that will take time for you to look into, because I can't just information dump on you all the stuff. I think this is a process which you'll have to over time see for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, because now I'm like, now that I'm a theist again, I'm a theist in a completely different way. Like, it's completely different for me now. And I'm all for, like, if there is a Jesus and a heaven and all that, I want to go, because the thought of not existing anymore creeps me out. Also, and it's not even really if I could prove that there's a heaven, I would believe in a Christian God. I guess it's more so if there's a hell, I would believe in the Christian God, because if there's a hell and there's a heaven, then there's got to be a way to go to the heaven. And, if that's where Jesus comes in, then okay. I mean, that kind of makes a little bit of sense to me, assuming there is a heaven and a hell. So.
And that's actually interesting, because on the flip side, now notice you're not even a Christian, and yet you're saying, look, if there's this hell place, then that should drive me to, in this case, be a Christian and all that. But the interesting side is that on the other side of So there are Christians who actually don't believe in a hell. That's and they believe in what's called an annihilationist perspective, like you just go into oblivion and that's it. But I'm not saying that I believe that. I'm just saying there are people who have certain perspectives. In your sense, hell is a requirement for you to then go into the direction of Jesus and all that, which is technically what I hold on to as well. But it's interesting as well to see people's perspectives, even in Christianity, that can have a totally different way of, this is why I believe. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, like, here's what I don't want to happen in this new theism journey that I'm getting ready to go on. I don't want to just assume that Jesus is real, assume the Bible's real, assume all of this stuff just because I'm scared to die or that I'm scared to go to hell. Like, I don't think that fear should be the evidence that makes me believe that there is a Christian God. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So I'm
Fear's got nothing to do
open
with
and
truth.
ready and willing to, to search this out and stuff, but I'm gonna need more than just fear. And the whole time I was a Christian before, that's pretty much all I had. Now that I really look back and think about it, it was that fear that was motivating me, and not just that. I mean, I had a relationship with God. I mean, I was madly in love with Him, Jesus, and the whole concept of all of it. The concept of the marriage and all of it. I mean, I've read the Bible, so it wasn't just the fear, but I mean, I have to be honest with myself. That was probably the main thing, and I don't want it to be that way,
Right. So, so this would be like a general theist then. This position of yours. You don't put a label on it, but you just appeal to that. Well, I don't know how would you define it? Like how would you label it? The position you're in at the moment. I know you said weak theist, but would you be able to put a name to it?
Not really. That's
No?
That's the
Okay.
best I can really say. To try to be as accurate as I can be, But honestly, I lean towards the God of the Bible just because that's really all I've ever known. So anytime I think about God, I automatically just kind of think of in that realm, that the God of the Bible. So, I am having a hard time kind of separating that, and I'm trying really hard not to just assume that these things that have been happening to me and the reason that I believe now, I don't want to just automatically say, okay, then that means that the God of the Bible is the one that is, interacting with me or whatever. So, if that makes any sense.
Right. Now here's a more, well, that's the thing. It's good to not have a bias, but I hope this question doesn't, make you think it's a it's a biased point of view. But it's just a question. What if it leads back into a Christian's form of faith? But this time it's a more scientific form of faith. Like it's a.
I would be totally happy to do that. I would be giddy as hell, to be honest with you.
Right.
That'd be fine with me. Yes.
Would that be the preferable position, or would there be any other religions that?
Nope, not really interested in any other religions. Not really into the whole Buddhist thing, which I think is nice and romantic and it has its good qualities. Islam, hell no. Paganism, not really, because isn't paganism like everything is a god, like water is a god and trees are a god? No, yeah, I can't. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So, no, I have to go by what I've seen and what I've noticed in my life, and that is that something is, you know, interacting with me. And I wish I could use better words to describe this interaction.
Right.
But I can't think of any coincidences, and that's a terrible word to use, but I can't really explain it any better at this moment.
Yeah, I was actually I'm actually from India, and so I left India when I was 9, and so I left in '97, and I still remember, like every year there's 4 different festivals to the 4 main gods in Hinduism. Shiva and Kali are one of them, to describe death and suffering. And yeah, I remember how at the age of 5, so 4 years before I left, the very next morning, my mum took me out to the markets, but you know, back then the markets were on the streets, and the prior night festival, if you had any sickness, or I don't know, bad luck, because Lakshmi is the goddess of luck and all that, and money. So they would throw this white powder on you to cleanse you, and so you know, that stuff would then fall on the ground and it would collect in puddles here and there on the road, and everyone was just superstitious about it. So Mom told me, don't touch it, you'll get sick. But a friend and well, you know, being boys, we decided to, you know, be naughty and test each other's skills on who can leap over this particularly large puddle of white powder. And we both fell into it, but nothing happened to me. All I recall, which now in a scientific context, I know he was having a form of seizure, but it wasn't. It was more him speaking Hindi, the language of the area, with his eyes rolled back and you know, blood coming down his nose. And another interesting point is that this thing lasted for an hour. This you know, this seizure-like thing. They took him to a Hindu priest. He couldn't do anything about it. It was only a Catholic priest who could exorcise whatever that was in the boy, in my friend. I'm not, now, again, I'm not trying to put a plug for Catholics. It's just that, because I'm not a Catholic, but it's interesting that, in this sense, a Christian priest, out of all the religious leaders in the area, only he could help this boy. But my point in mentioning this is that even after that, and then coming into Australia, which is, you know, it looks sterile. You know, the environment looks sterile in comparison to the things that go on in the Eastern world. It's sterile in the sense of you don't see cows in the road, and you don't see, you know, religious things going on. It's very secular based, and that fueled my atheism a little bit. But the lingering thing that was in the back of my mind is things like that, which is kind of, in a very loose way, related to what you were just saying. All these, are these coincidences, these things that are happening to me? So yeah, that's another facet of as to why I became a theist, based on those prior experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see why. I mean, that's some pretty heavy stuff to witness. Yeah,
especially if you're a 5-year-old boy not knowing, and it kind of fuels the whole, like, Mum was right, you'll get sick or something. And yeah, but my family are Christian. It's just that I've always been the skeptical, well, why this, why that, and I've always been given the response, just take it by faith, you don't need to know why. That didn't really work with me. So my faith is literally my own, taking the time to investigate. And boy, am I thankful that I did investigate, because it's a whole new world that I never thought, you know, I mean, I thought science was great, like just seeing the wonders of mathematics and how mathematics works. But the philosophical side of religion per se is just a whole other, like, like a multiverse in itself. Yeah.
Multiverse.
Yeah.
I'm playing. Oh, sorry to cut you off, Tanya. General, Bio Logos just made a new video. The president about the multiverse. I guess they're endorsing the multiverse now. So before I made like any like rash accusations or say, oh, that's heresy or whatever, because it's so in my mind, because I used to be a young earther, that anything, like, still sometimes, General, like when somebody says like 13 billion, 14 billion, like I that's that same reaction, right, pops up in my brain, and then I have to say, oh wait, gender creationism isn't true anymore. It's difficult.
Yeah. So maybe instead of me asking Tony a lot of questions, by the way, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Is it Tonya? Because I do have a friend named Tonya, and I emphasize the O in the name. So
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Okay.
A lot of people actually mispronounce it and call me Tanya, even though
yeah.
there's an O in it. I'm like, hello, people.
Right. Hey, Wyatt.
Hey, how you
Hey, what's up,
doing?
Wyatt?
Hey, I saw the first female in Google Hangouts I've ever saw in a long time.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Hello.
There's a long context to that. Maybe Tonya can, 2-minute summary explain how she came. Yeah.
Again? Oh God. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna make this really quick. I was a Christian, raised Christian. About 2.5 years ago, deconverted, became an atheist because I decided evolution was true and I couldn't believe in the Bible and evolution at the same time. So the past 2.5 years of my life has sucked, and the past 6 to 8 months or so, I have been noticing things happening in my life that lead me to believe that there is some kind of God that is interacting with me. So I now call myself a weak theist. And that is it.
Cool. General, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Tony, feel free to ask me questions. I don't want to just
Or me.
Ask you questions. So
I have questions, if you guys don't mind.
yeah, go ahead. And Wyatt, do you want to say something?
I'm just interested in the chat.
Wait, I'm deducing that you did have work today, right? You worked today, right?
Yeah.
And
your deduction's getting better.
Yeah, they are getting better. And let me see. It is I'm gonna say it's 8 o'clock, right? Or 9 o'clock your time, something like that, around that.
9 o'clock. Deduction's getting better. 9:15 actually.
Oh man, I'm that good. One more thing. So I was never an atheist, right? So I will never know how this like to say God doesn't exist or whatever. But I was skeptical of evolution, right? And so general, in the same sense how you felt about understand oh my gosh, there's a whole nother realm to philosophy. I'm still discovering it every day, right? With me accepting evolution and cosmology and everything like that. And so I can in a sense I can kind of see where both you guys are coming from being skeptical. So I think that's pretty awesome.
You have anything, General?
Nope. I'm just waiting on any questions Tonya has.
Tanya, do you want to kick off the discussion? We could probably.
Sure.
Sure. Okay.
All right. So you believe in evolution, then? Is that correct?
Well, I'm a creationist minority in here, young Earth creationist.
Oh, okay.
I think she was asking me, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, why?
So that's okay. But yeah, General,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
you're a
Yeah,
evolutionist?
I've always been. Well, let me clarify. Uh, I was skeptical of evolution, even in my atheism. Then leading into Christianity, I was still a little bit skeptical. But now I'm full blown evolution, because it's a necessary mechanism. If God exists, it's a necessary mechanism to explain the whole. In fact, it's to explain the whole atonement of Jesus on the cross. Like, that won't make sense without evolution. And to you, that might be going like, what the? Like, how do you make that connection? But yeah,
Yes, I'd like to
yeah.
hear why you say that.
Well, it's to do with the incarnation. So, in Christian theology, the more I looked into what the early Christians call a hypostasis, basically the singularity connection of the divine with the physical. Because if God transcends this universe, and in science we know the universe to be at least 10 dimensions, which means this being operates in at least 11 plus dimensions. So because he has to transcend it in order to be this God. But if he's going to descend, and hence, the question I asked you, what's the most efficient means he can do that? The only way he could do that is if he were to limit himself down to our level, which he could do, because it's kind of like we can do that in mathematics. In our own context, we are just three-dimensional beings. We can then locate ourselves onto a two-dimensional plane. We do that all the time in computing. So now, if the creation took place like the way the young Earth creationists claim, that that God just arbitrarily creates a whole creature and a whole species just by itself, and there's no evolutionary connection, then that would not make sense for many of the statements in the New Testament, where the entire cosmos is able to be reclaimed back to God, because Paul in Colossians 1 and in Romans 8, and I guess you being an ex-Christian, I think you may know of these passages, where he says that the entire universe, both the heavens and the earth, are able to be reconciled back to Jesus through his blood, through his sacrificial death. Now, that would make sense in an evolutionary sense, because we are technically the cosmos. In that hypostasis, Jesus is able to, in the genome of a human, he's able to appeal back to the Planck epoch of the Big Bang. He's able to potentially, even if there's alien life, and this was a big question in the early church, what if there's other worlds out there? Does Jesus have to go and die on those worlds as well to save those people? But again, then they would appeal to Colossians 1 verse 20 and saying, no, just this one act is enough to appeal to all of creation. But how can he appeal to all of creation if human beings are not evolved from the creation? So evolution then is the only means by which God can redeem pretty much everything back to himself. And obviously have you and me as, in the atonement sense, you and me as the chosen one, so to speak, like the language of you and me being conformed to the image of the Son and all that. Yeah. So
Wow.
that for me that was my light bulb moment. One of those like, oh, evolution is actually the reason why it makes sense for the whole universe to be to be on the cross, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. You just totally blew my mind right there. It reminds me of something that a friend of mine told me. I'm sure you guys have heard of him. Not a lot of people like him, but I do. Brett Keane. He told me this a little while back. He said, we were talking about, and this was back when I was an atheist, and he was, just asking me questions. Me and him love to go back and forth, and he asked some great questions. But one of the questions or things that he mentioned when I was talking about how, evolution is kind of conflicting with me as far as believing in God and all that, he was like, I'm trying to remember how he worded it. He said, because of how, the earth can sustain life the way it can and how everything had to be just right for it to do so and yada, yada, yada. What if a God who did create the Big Bang and did create this universe knew exactly what to do in that creation moment to make everything happen the way that it did? And I'd never thought about it that way. But so I don't know, what you just said kind of made me think of that too. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, in fact, I'm sure you know about Isaac Newton, the founder of calculus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But do you know about Leibniz?
No, I don't think so.
No? So,
the argument, man.
Sorry?
Contingency argument, right?
Yeah, the famous mathematician who, well, this is just a side note. A lot of in school, you learn about Isaac Newton and oh yeah, he's the inventor of calculus, and well, Leibniz was an independent mathematician, a Christian as well. He independently also made calculus, but the irony is that we use his notation in calculus. We don't use Newton's notation. So I'm actually a fan of Leibniz, not specifically Newton. But anyway, so Leibniz actually proposed something quite remarkable in light of what you just said, Tanya. And that is, if God starts with a perfect creation, then how can something that's perfect, which basically means, define perfect. When you say perfect, do you mean like God Himself? This is a question you would ask. So, if God starts with something as perfect as Himself, but then how can that thing that is perfect, how can it be finite? Because if it's to be perfect, it has to be eternal like Himself. So it's kind of like asking, how can God create God? How can you have a eternal God create a God like Him, but is finite?
Right.
And so he then said, the only explanation then is that this thing that's created is good, but not perfect. So that means there's going to be flaws in it. There's going to be, there's a potentiality of decay and entropy and, things like that. Which kind of makes sense because in Big Bang we see entropy and thermodynamics right at the start, right at the Planck epoch. But then another notion of, well, okay, he's philosophically, that's the only way he can do this, but can he somehow now make this into, quote unquote, like a perfect thing? And then a light bulb moment for him was, again, the cross, in the sense of when Jesus dies on the cross, the hypostasis, the connection between the divine and the material. Through Jesus, now this very good but not perfect thing can become perfect, because now you're using the New Testament language, you're being clothed with Jesus, you're baptized into Jesus, you're resurrected in Jesus, and then perfection can take place. So it would fit what you just said about God's ultimate plan was he created this universe with the just right properties to bring about maximum evil, so that and then bring about maximum perfection in the new creation. So I'm just emphasizing on what your friend said. Yeah.
So, because the universe is finite, obviously, does that pose a problem then? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, the fact that so before Big Bang cosmology, and in fact the Greeks, even back in Jesus' day, they believed that the universe was eternal, and that time was a illusion. It was not like a physical property of the universe. And the interesting thing about that is, in Hebrews 11, verse 3, it says, "By faith we know that time has a beginning," which, when Augustine saw that, and when he debated the Greek philosophers, he said, I just have to take this by faith. I can't prove it to you. According to the scriptures, time is a finite property, which now, with Big Bang, we can explain this. And so the fact that the universe is finite, therefore means the universe can never have been created perfect, like what the younger creationists claim. And then, somehow we corrupted it. It had to start with death and decay, because it's not perfect. It can't be perfect at the start. In order for then God to now make it into a perfect thing, which is the only way you can do that is through the cross. So, yeah.
I guess that's where I'm having a hard time.
All right, go ahead.
So, okay, since the universe is finite, and I'm understanding everything that you said, I think, but because it's finite, how is what took place on the? Are you basically saying that what took place on the cross, that wasn't a finite issue? Like, that has nothing to do with being finite? Or?
Wait, let me just see if I got this right from you. Are you asking that? So you understand that do you understand Leibniz's proposition of how can a finite thing be perfect? Because so the natural conclusion is it has to only be good but not perfect, like good enough, so to speak, because it's a finite thing, right?
Yeah, I think I get that. Yeah.
Right. Then I think your next question is, isn't the cross a finite event that then?
Right. Exactly.
Right. Well, notice my photo. That's why I have this photo.
Dali, right?
Sorry?
That Dali, Salvador Dali.
Yeah, Salvador Dali painting. Yeah. Do you know what's going on?
That always blew my mind. Yes, I know all about that photo. That always blew my mind. Yeah.
Maybe could you? Well, maybe you can. Can you explain it? Like what's going on? In this
okay, so it's basically depicting a fourth dimension. Is it the fourth dimension? I think it's the fourth.
Pretty much, yep, like a tesseract. Yep.
Yeah, which we had no clue about before he painted that picture, and then he put Jesus on it, which is even creepier. So yeah, that painting got my attention back when I first saw it and then understood what I was looking at.
Right. So now, that should automatically answer your question, because if God is a transcendent being, a multidimensional being, the cross, therefore, is not some finite event that took place. If Jesus is connecting the divine, again, that hypostasis, if he's connecting the divine who transcends these dimensions and limits himself into our dimensional perspective, then the cross is like this tesseract, an unfolded tesseract, where past, present, and future, he can atone for sins, past, present, and future, and redeem past, present, and future. So the cross, therefore, is an eternal thing, not a finite thing.
Okay, so Jesus was finite, as we know, because he was a human being. But the act of him dying and, the sacrifice and all of that's what was not finite. It
was both at a point in time and eternity past and future, because that's the point of that's how multidimensions work. You can be, if you're a multidimensional being, I can be in one locale and everywhere at the same time.
Well, hyperdimensional, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So, from our perspective, Tonya, yeah, in fact, just the 6 hours he was on the cross, there's this physical, finite perspective of here's a man just hanging on a cross, but little do they realize the background things that are going on, and this is where it leads into the whole Trinitarian perspective, because Trinitarian automatically presupposes a highly complex being because of his transcendent nature of, transcending the 11 dimensions and all that. Yeah. So this would not make any sense if Jesus was like a mere prophet, or if Jesus was a mere angel, like what the Jehovah's Witnesses would like to say. If he is indeed God in the flesh, then he can be both localized and non-localized at the same time. That's the only way he could do that.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Hey,
Okay,
General,
so then, oh, go ahead.
sorry, I would love to have a discussion with you on the Trinity on my channel.
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Just, pick a day or something. But yeah, go ahead, Tonya.
All right, what was I gonna say? Okay, so then why did he create the world finite then? Like, if he's capable of making a creation that is not finite, which we know he can do, because that's what is supposed to be what, heaven is going to be, like Revelation said, nothing that defileth shall enter, and it's supposed to be like a non-finite place, I guess. So why do you think that he did all of this then, when he could have just at the beginning, made everything the way he ultimately wants it to be?
Yeah, so this is where it gets interesting, because I've also asked that same question. And what I've found is that heaven is actually not an original place. That's actually and because I also study Islam, that's actually an Islamic context or perspective, that first Allah and his quote-unquote heavenly paradise existed, which then Adam and Eve were born into, and then the creation took place. The interesting thing about heaven, quote-unquote, is that that's a place that is being prepared for you and me, and, believe it or not, and for God himself. God is not, quote-unquote, in heaven. Whatever he is, according to the ancient Jewish literature, and in this case also the Bible, he's in what the Jews call a divine council. So think of it like if you've seen the movie Thor and Thor's father and how they preside over a council of gods. Think of it like that. But that's not they're not localized in a heaven-like context. It's just that's his existence. He just exists, whatever that is. And then it leads into, okay, now I'm going to create. But then there's this philosophical problem. Well, if I create something, it can't be perfect like me, because perfection means it has to be like me, but how can it be finite? So therefore the automatic result is, okay, this thing that I'm creating is going to be limited. It has to be, in order for it to be a non-God. But then I want this thing to be in my presence. Like what Jesus says, I'll make you sit on the thrones with me, language like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, what you just said, can I, real quick, what you just said pretty much summed it up for me, I think.
Okay.
In order for him to create a non-God, he had to make a finite creation. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Okay.
And then this will lead into, and I'll type it in the side chat for you. This leads into what the church fathers called theosis, or deification. where through the act of the cross, which is the painting you're seeing before you, that very act results in you and me being able to be quote unquote deified or become divine, really, in order to then sit with the Trinity, to then experience what you call, this heavenly whatever. And hence it makes sense then for because you quoted Revelation, that nothing nothing sinful can enter, nothing finite can enter. So anyway, yeah, I'm glad that makes sense. But
Why?
yeah, Tony, this is all the. Have you noticed, like, my
Hey, Wayne,
it's not some like it's highly scientific based. Like, I've been very skeptical, but in the process of time I've become very thoughtful about it, and
Wayne wants to say something real quick, and then I gotta go.
Oh
Hey.
yeah, I was just gonna say also as well, every time you go to the store now, right, and you and your girlfriend like go to Walmart, don't forget tampons. You'll need them. Dude, this is
Okay.
gotta. She ruined our last hangout with you. If she doesn't stop, I'm gonna call your girlfriend for you, and I'm gonna reclaim your freedom, because you are like
No,
entrenched.
No, exegete Proverbs 31.
What is Proverbs 31? It's sad I don't know it. The
Um,
Jews would have stuff memorized like the back of their hand.
Hold on. Proverbs 31 is basically the perfect wife.
Oh well, she's calling you to herself like this. She's not the perfect wife. You guys aren't even living together yet. God forbid you guys are living together, right? And I've seen it with my grandparents. My grandpa would be like in the living room somewhere, and my grandma would just start screaming his name out of nowhere over some dumb stuff. Dale, and like she hollers. She hollers all around the house, Dale, and he's like, "What, Carol?" And she's like, "We don't have any more toothpaste." And I'm like, "Really? You guys are gonna be that couple, and everybody's gonna be looking at you guys fighting at Walmart over tampons."
Wow. Nah. The only thing I do to keep her in line is say, "Don't make me exegete Proverbs 31."
Oh no, she's gonna find out she's not the perfect wife.
Don't make me pull out the Hebrew. Don't make me. Or don't make me pull out this.
Why? Speaking about the Trinity, so there's this guy. I think I told you about him. I told you about him, General Marcus Rogers. He's kind of like Facebook famous, and he doesn't accept the Trinity. He's a oneness Pentecostal, and he says that he doesn't believe the Trinity because the word Trinity is not in the Bible.
Well, the word Bible isn't.
Exactly. The hydrological system, like that word isn't in it's not in the Genesis account, but the Genesis account perfectly describes what we call the water cycle. Something to think about. Oh, General, did you see my creation model I had made?
Yeah, I did. But
What'd you think?
I need to go through that with you, Wayne. It's pretty neat. It's just that cyanobacteria and the creation, because I think you very briefly just mentioned, oh, by the way, oxygen was a result of something, but you didn't emphasize that point. You should use my chart. my
Oh yeah, I was piecing stuff together.
just rely on that chart.
Well,
I did put. What you say?
Yeah. Oh, I'm just going to tell Tanya if she wants to ever talk to me, I could open up a live hangout anytime.
Hmm.
But
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm gonna add all you guys. I appreciate you
Okay.
talking with me. It's been great.
Yes, so
Alright.
my YouTube as well. I've got all like really in-depth scholarly material on my YouTube.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
All right. All right. God bless you guys.
All right, you
Yeah.
too. See
Hey,
ya.
Wyatt.
You Tampa man.
All
Oh,
right.
man.
I'm gonna get you back, Wayne. One of these days, when you get a girlfriend, I'm gonna get you back. I'll do it in the most Calvinistic way possible.
Oh, because you know I'm not reformed. But yeah, Jenner, I did get a chance to put eye evolution in there. Like I fit it. I forgot how I put it in the timeline, but put it somewhere because that's the one thing like BioLogos doesn't have. Like I think that's the most like important part to put in there, the evolution of the eye, because we always hear about that from like ideas, right? Like how could the eye have evolved? And we're like, you know, evolved through this process, and they just can't believe it. They just cannot freaking believe it. But that's awesome.
Yeah, so I think you guys can see the. I'm just screen sharing the my creation chart. Yeah, so notice with my cursor here. See how I put cyanobacteria and other phototrophs roughly 2.7 billion years ago. So, and this, notice up here, it's up at day 2. So we know day 1 is the Spirit of God hovering, and the life that's created actually forms way back here, really early, isotopic evidence. So this is your unicellular life, which then, around this time, the oceans become permanent.
Oh, bro,
And then
one more thing. So,
Yeah.
in like, I don't think the light in Genesis 1, I don't think that's the light that's coming like directly from the start of the Big Bang. I think that's like light like from like after our sun was formed. I think I don't.
Yeah. But that's actually so. Whenever someone says "Let there be light," no. That's not even talking about the Big Bang. The start of verse 2 specifically says that the Earth was formless and void. So this is way back here, the Hadean period of the planet, which then you have the moon formation event, like roughly 10 million or 100 million years later. Then life takes place on the dark surface, especially when the oceans become permanent. Then this life causes a stable water cycle, which results in the light from the sun coming through, because the cloud cover has become translucent. And then an increase in oxygen due to the cyanobacteria and certain eukaryotes, and then finally, because day 3 and 4 is the land and the vegetation that take place. So this is why I put some scientists believe first land plants arrive over here, but this is all in conjunction with day 3, and then finally day 4 is when we can actually see the sky, and then day 5 is now going beyond the Cambrian explosion, and then finally humans at day 6, which is not even 50,000 or 100,000 years ago. Which, by the way, I'll need to change this figure here because I made this anyway. But yeah, so use this chart, Wayne, to calibrate.
Updated. This isn't the original one you had, right? You made changes to it.
No. This I haven't made changes to this yet. Like this is the original.
Oh, okay, all right, cool. So I think I might have it like somewhere in my folder on my computer. But they put plant life back like an extra 200 million years in 2009, right? So they think plants and animals came around about the same time, or maybe even plants came about later.
Hey, YouTube and G+.
Oh, sorry.
Say that again, Wayne. What did you say?
Oh, they I think there were like some plant biologists who made an article, or they actually made a few articles on in Nature in 2009, and they said they put plant life back at least like an extra 200 million years, somewhere around
Yeah,
like
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so actually like that biblical prediction was right then. So I mean the Bible got it right for all
Yeah.
these years. We were like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
the plants came after the animals, and then we found out, well, no, that was wrong.
Yeah. All right, Tanya, go ahead.
Okay, I had a question when you had mentioned the council. I remember reading about that.
Yep.
Do you think that so this council that makes up the council makes up God or no?
Very good question. The council makes up God and the other gods. That might sound really like no Christian has told me that, but that's actually a biblical statement.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so when everything, when the earth is destroyed and everything goes back to God, does God no longer, is this council irrelevant? God is just God again? Like, or God is just one,
Yeah.
one?
That another good question. We actually become the council members.
Okay.
And not just that. It's so because the council members even before the creation, which God calls the HaKodesh, the holy ones, which we would call angels and all that. So Satan was part of the council, but obviously he fell. So the difference this time around is that even the holy ones in the first time around, now notice, in order to be in the council, you kind of have to be like God. But hang on a second, I thought I just said anything created cannot be like God. It has to be finite, it has to be limited. But that's actually the point of not just the creation, but also his holy ones, whom also fell. So God is wanting a council that is basically one with the Trinity, meaning it'll never fall, it'll never fail, it's eternal. That's the reason why in John 17, when Jesus says, now that I've come into the world, I've done my mission, I'm about to be glorified, and I'm going to glorify the people that you've given me. And that's why he mentions things like, so they will be one like we are one, and they will be one in us, and we'll be one in them. And I don't know if you recall that passage in John 17 where Jesus prays this. So the new creation and the tent of God in Revelation 21, and hence the new council context, is that we are not going to be finite creatures in this heavenly perspective. We're actually going to be eternal with God. Hence the theosis language. And that can only take place with Jesus' glorification of the physical body and all that.
Okay. So when we become the body of Christ, which, born again or whatever, I always, in my studying thought, because I know a lot of Christians say, okay, well, the moment you accept Christ as your Savior, you become born again. But that didn't really ever make sense to me.
Right.
I always thought that, it's not possible to actually be born again until God's ready to go ahead and destroy everything and start over, pretty much.
Yeah, that's and you're more correct than the people who said because I've had Christians to ask me, "Oh, are you a born again Christian?" I'm not born again yet. I may be.
Right.
I may be. Yeah, I may be like reborn in the sense of a fleshy heart now, from a heart of stone to a heart of flesh, like that type of language. Mm-hmm. But as far as actually being born again, no. That's only going to take place when Jesus returns.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. That makes more sense.
Well, I'm going to probably watch a video and then hit the hay.
You just were going to hit the... I know what happened. I'm going to deduce what happened. So Mama Mickey has called you, and she hung up the phone, but she's going to be calling you back. And so you need to be hot and ready.
Yeah, I need to be hot and ready.
Like a baked potato.
Yep. Actually, I want to call her because I want to talk to her. But
But my deduction was right once again. I'm always right.
No, the Bible's always right.
Depends on the interpretation. And I'm right again.
Yep.
Why? When are you gonna come home to order? When? Why? I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the
When
day.
you gonna
You say,
come
you
home
know
to
what?
Calvinism? When are you going to come home to Calvinism?
When the world ends.
Well, Wyatt, was Jesus a Calvinist?
Nobody had Calvinistic tendencies like John 6:44.
I don't think Jesus ever taught somebody up to a stake because they didn't accept Calvinism, which is what John Calvin did. He taught some dude up to a stake and burnt them alive because he wasn't reformed.
No, no, no. I think that's a myth. I don't recall John Calvin killing anyone.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to do some digging. I'm going to find this.
Unless you find something that'll just blow my mind, then yeah.
Yeah, he was a pretty bad dude. He did some pretty nasty
Oh, really?
things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm about to dig up some dirt on him.
Dig up some dirt.
His skeletons are coming out of the closet tonight. But so I kind of can like deduce how you became a young Earth creationist, right? But I never thought you were like a Calvinist or Reformed. Those words like Calvinism and young Earth creationism, I think that is the perfect man, the perfect cult. I mean, like they just go together like peanut butter and jealous.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on. You could be old earther and Calvinist.
It's rare because like the old earthers, I know they don't really like worry about things like, do we have free will? I don't know. That's more of like I don't really see like actual like old Earth creationists worrying about stuff like that. Now I do see like the young Earthers, like they talk about this like a lot. But I know Christian Anarchist. He's a theistic evolutionist and he's a Calvinist. So I think he's wrong on the Calvinist point. But that's
Don't
just
make me exegete Romans 9. Don't make me exegete Romans 9 on you.
well, I'm a Mullinist, so it wouldn't mean anything to me anyway. I'm the ultimate heretic. Not only do I accept evolution, but I also accept that we have free will away from God.
Heresy.
Well, hey guys, I have to actually get going. But I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Hoping we can maybe
Yeah,
do
it's
it
been
again
really
soon.
good.
All right.
I'm
God
around
bless.
a lot, so.
All right.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Well, I guess I can start saying God bless again. Oh my gosh. Okay. God bless, guys. I
God
will
bless.
talk to
See
you
you,
later.
Tanya. Nice chatting.
Yeah. Hey, hey Wayne.
Mhm.
Don't tell me you would like the book The Shack.
Oh, is that the one where like God turns himself into a woman or something like that? God would never turn himself into a woman because, well, women are the ones who got us into this in the first place. No, I'm playing. It's a joke. It's a joke. Oh, but why did you hear? So Hannah, Kent Hovind's secretary, she quit. She quit her job, and she said that Kent Hovind is a narcissist.
It's
And she,
Hannah.
no, her name is Hannah, and she strongly disliked when Kent called her Hannah. I actually have her written statement that I found a couple of days ago. General, I don't know if you saw it or not. I think I tagged you in it, but
Hey, maybe she could be my secretary now. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Wait, what are you guys talking about?
Kent Hovind's secretary Hannah, she quit.
Oh, oh my God! It just gets even better and better. Like, okay, now what the heck happened there? Like, why did she leave?
Hold on, I'm about to get you her statement.
Oh
Her
man,
statement.
that by the way, that article. There's another guy. I don't know Wyatt if you saw it. He called it the Mistress of Hovind.
Yes.
Hovind's Mistress.
Don't tell me it's Robert Batty.
I don't know what his name was, but he wrote something called Hovind's Mistress or something.
Don't tell me. Robert Batty. Robert Batty always. Robert Batty. He's an internet stalker. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah. Maybe it's him. But he wrote an article basically saying that his mistress was the ministry, and he didn't, which kind of actually makes a lot of sense in the sense of, in the article he says,
where's his wife in the videos? You know, was I the only one thinking like, does Kent ever like spend time with his wife? Right? Like I remember.
Yeah. Because he says. This whole time he says he speaks 900 times a year, which means at least he has to speak at least like twice a day or something. And then it's kind of like, okay, have you actually spent time with your wife, with your family? And I actually feel really sorry for Joe, his wife. I have a feeling Kent has made his ministry into like an idol to glorify himself. Through it, and then obviously with this whole prison sentence and all that, he all along was lusting after a woman who would function under his in the same thought process. Because think about it, did Joe ever do the things that Ken Hovind did, and that is actually go and preach the same thing that Ken's preaching? No. Joe was, she's always been Joe. It was just, she just did her thing, whatever she did, but she didn't actually get involved with the younger context. Now, Mary Toko is the prime candidate, and I'm suspicious because the chemistry between those two, right from the start, and I'm talking back from 2002 all the way to the recent interview Ken did with her, and then now specifically that supposedly they're getting married. I reckon there's been some adultery going on right from the start. But that's, I'm not saying I'm correct. I'm just saying I'm very suspicious, and it's a conjecture.
This feels like high school, man. Except in the ministry wise.
Yeah. Yeah. And so.
And then Steven Anderson's like, that's adultery!
Yeah. Imagine Steven Anderson's sermon.
He stands up on the pulpit and he's just like, it's a sin!
It's a sin!
Yeah, I can see it. I can believe it.
Yeah, he actually did.
There we go. Oh man,
Hey, I'm gonna just start saying that's a Jokana.
No, don't say that. She'll sue you. I'm serious. She's probably like somewhat in the process of like suing Kent, because she did not like him at all. She didn't want to put up with his crap anymore.
Hey.
Here we go. All right, I'm about to read it to you guys. Okay, so tell me when you guys see my screen. Tell me when you guys see my screen.
Is this about Hannah?
Yep, this is what she wrote.
All right, let's see.
Oh, that's Robert Batty's website.
No.
Yeah, that's from Robert Batty. Yeah, that's Robert Batty's website.
Okay.
No, but just read it. I just want to see this.
Sure. So her comments are basically, this hurts me to say, but I myself have thought of many of the same points you just brought over out over the last 6 months or so while I was still working for his ministry. I hate to see him be this way. While there are many things I like about him, I have found him to be narcissistic in the extreme, except when he wants to put on a humble front for certain things. Arrogant, quick to jump to the next topic without fully covering the current one, avoids topics he doesn't like, and like you said, doesn't accept correction.
Right.
Just comes back with a counter argument to make his points look undeniably right. Many times my parents warned me that he wasn't doing right and I should step down. But I felt bad leaving him hanging without someone to take care of the thousands of emails he'd received a week, so I kept going and defended his good points. As thanks for the work I did, I had to deal with, of all things, the very unwelcome advertising of myself as a single woman to anybody out there who might be interested in me on YouTube, which I found for a so-called man of God, pastor, and evangelist, etc., very inappropriate and shocking behavior coming from somebody who is so intelligent and is so strong in the faith. That was so foolish it showed his complete lack of wisdom and discernment. I asked him very nicely not to do that, and he'd stop for a while and then conveniently forget and do it again. This was a huge turnoff for me as a young woman trying to stay behind the scenes and avoid the stalkers. I guess all we can do now is pray for him and drop our support. I will only continue to support his creation evolution material, but I don't feel I should support him in any other way anymore, which makes me sad. He was a role model to me, and I looked up to him since I was 10 years old. He strengthened my interest in creation and geology and the fight against evolution propaganda as I grew up. He was my favorite and a hero of mine, but I find him using some of the same arguments and excuses he claims other people make towards the things he says. I cannot wholeheartedly support someone like that.
Wow, and that's coming from Hannah. That's a pretty wow. Well, actually, in a way, praise God. You know, it is unfortunate. It is sad. He is, after all, a human being saved by the well. Here's the whole like, is Ken Hovind saved? But Jesus did die for Ken Hovind. He's no particular Satan, so to speak. But this sort of thing, you know, his own crew are now leaving, and it's just going to be a cyclic thing. Like his own family has left him, his own crew is starting to leave him. Now have you noticed he's looking for new people to help him in his new location? All he needs really is, by the grace of God, you know, it has to start with a humbling nature first, and then a realization of, look, you're not correct, Kent. You know, and there are people, well-meaning people. In fact, Wayne, we've dedicated our time when we debated Kent. Notice when we were preparing our material, we weren't there just to debate. We actually wanted to educate. It wasn't a debate. It wasn't like, oh, look, I won against Ken Hovind. It was all about, look, Ken, we've taken the time to actually give you a model that fits even better than the model you proposed. And not only that, but to actually, it's an evangelistic thing. Like, we care about winning souls. And Kent, what you're doing is, we care about what you're doing, because what you're doing is you're removing, you're making people lose their faith when they realize that evolution is true. And then they can't, you know, quote unquote, fit it with young Earth creationism.
Like Tanya just said.
Exactly, yeah. So, what Hannah just said is, I'm glad this is going public, because I really do hope that the ministry Kent runs dies down, but not Kent the man, not Kent the human being. I want Kent to become. Can you imagine that, Wayne? Can you imagine Kent becoming a salt and a light for, say, an evolutionary model. Like, do you know the amount of good that he would actually do? It that's what I'm yearning for. I'm yearning for that sort of a miracle, not what he's what he's going through at the moment, and how he's operating at the moment. He's become like a cult leader, really.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've said that before. Oh yeah. Oh, most definitely. And it's not because of him teaching Young Earth creation, and that's not why. But he's become like a cult leader because people will blindly follow him wherever he goes. I mean, he got a couple like 30, 40 people to stop their every day-to-day lives to come out and work for him for free and build up an entire theme park out in God knows where. That's not normal.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody can see that's not normal.
Yeah, and that's again, it's we need to pray for him about that. Like, as much as we may get heated and get upset over his total inability of rational thought, and when we get frustrated about when Christians realize, look, that position is not the right way, and then the unfortunate thing is they leave the faith. Yeah, okay, we get frustrated and all that, but at the end of the day, he's just like any other human being who needs who needs salvation. So
one thing I can say, even though he went to prison and his wife has left him and stuff like that. One thing I can say is at least he didn't walk away from the faith, right? And like say God does exist and screw the Bible and all that stuff, because he just as easily could have done that. I mean, what do you think might happen if he ever came to the conclusion that Young Earth creationism isn't true? I mean, he might walk away from the faith.
Yeah, that's well, it would be expected. He just needs to. In a way, I don't even know how it even. Like, it would go back to, how did he even become a young creationist to begin with? And then, from there, for him to be so convinced, so blindingly convinced that that's the true interpretation, to then stock your entire life based on that. And what are the fruits? Well, what sort of fruits has he produced from that? Well, notice, his family is now dysfunction. His own ministry has been dysfunction. He's been put into jail for the right reasons, by the way. He was a tax evasor. It wasn't that he, the government's not going to just put you in jail just like that. What sort of fruits did he produce from the very thing that he sworn was like the way, was the truth? So and then now it's become a very like he's trying to justify himself by starting over again and neglecting everyone who actually does love him and want to support him, which God has put into his life. So and I hate to say this, but he's in a way thumbing his nose against God and saying, no, I'll do it my own way, even though I'll make a false image of you and worship that and think that I'm doing your work when actually you're not. So yeah.
Well, not even a younger thing, but it's just the fact that, because Ken Ham, right? Ken Ham, he's a younger creationist, and he doesn't. I mean, he hasn't been in any trouble. You don't hear any scandals about him or anything like that. So it is possible to hold to that interpretation of the Bible and have your life still go on. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily why his life is in shambles. I think his life is in shambles just because Kent wants to do what he wants to do, and his personality is he's just stubborn. That's it. He's a stubborn person.
Yeah. I think they're in relationship with Ken Ham, and well, no Young Earth ministry has done well except for Ken Ham's ministry. The reason why Ken Ham's ministry has actually done well is because Ken Ham has been at least honest. there's a huge difference between Ken Ham and, say, many of the other younger creationist ministries out there, because the other younger creationist ministries out there are always deceptive. At least with Ken Ham, he has legitimate PhD holders who, in this sense, hold a younger, point of view, and who basically say, well, this is our interpretation, and we're going to be as honest and as forthcoming as possible. That's why they have articles like, arguments that young Christians should not use. That's why they have such articles on their website. So I think in the process of pure evangelism, I think I wouldn't deny God's grace in Ken Ham's ministry. I think God can work even in false interpretations, and work through that. But definitely when, all right, Wyatt, you take care, man.
All right, God bless, guys. Sorry.
Mhm.
Catch you, mate.
All right.
But yeah, I think with people like Kent, God removes his favor. And now Kent's needing to justify himself. What's your thoughts on that, Wayne?
I think I think young Earth creationism, and I say people are like, why do you say Earth? Philly accent. We don't say Earth with the th. We always say, I don't know. Certain words we just have certain accents with. But with young Earth creationism, I just think, oh boy, it's a slippery slope with that type of interpretation, because there's other different, because young Earth creationism is a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy. That all the scientists in the world are conspiring against the Bible, against Christians, and they secretly know the world is 6,000 years old. But the reason why they don't come to that interpretation is because of methodological naturalism. But also, when people hold to that interpretation of reality, then it opens up the door for people to go down into these other weird interpretations, like a flat Earth model, right? Or maybe even
Right.
Right. And so it opens up the door for bad information. And so if you think the scientists are lying about this, well, also, maybe the IRS is lying about something else. So maybe the IRS doesn't have the correct interpretation of the IRS handbooklet. And so we're not going to do what this booklet says. We're going to make our own interpretation of this book, because not only are the scientists lying about evolution and they're lying about flat Earth, but the IRS is lying about this. And it's so easy for people to keep on going down these slippery slopes where everybody's lying. Until if the only person telling the truth is who? Ken Hovind or Ken Ham or whoever,
Right.
whatever they say is good. And so it's so easy, because all these conspiracies, they all fit together, right? Because now I know most flat earthers are younger creationists, and most younger creationists are flat earthers.
Well, Wayne, I think this has been a very fruitful hangout, in the sense of, because I approached Tanya, and I hope we showcased a gracious dialogue, not to evangelize, but to have an intellectual dialogue. And I think she was pleasantly surprised. So that's been really good.
Yeah.
I don't think this would have happened in G-Man's room. So yeah.
I think though, if she really does want to go out and look for answers, she'll keep on looking and she'll keep on seeking and searching, right? And she'll come to the knowledge of the truth. So I mean, that's it. So.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think I have nothing else to say, and I think I may have to go now anyway. So, anything else you wanted to talk about, Wayne?
So on the creation model that I was making, right? I only was able to go all the way up until the Tower of Babel, which I put back to probably about 30,000 years ago. And after that, I'm kind of at a halt until I can get some more information because I want to make an accurate model. So that's pretty much it.
By the way, I think I found something really awesome for you. I'll just put it in the side chat for you. It's a chronology made by Rick Ashman. He's a missionary who also holds to Biologos and Reasons to Believe, and he's made a PDF titled "The Genesis 10 Genealogy in Light of Evolutionary." The Table of Nations with Y chromosomal DNA. I think this is just excellent. So let me just give you the link. Because he was young, and here's the funny thing, he was once a young earth creationist, but he has done an excellent job in showcasing that the human, the hominid species that migrated around the place and how we can trace that through DNA, that actually fits the patterns in Genesis 10. And so I've given you the link. So try and connect that with, because you just mentioned the Babel account.
Right.
So Babel would be in relation to that passage, and see if you can have a read and maybe it'll illuminate something for you.
All right, I'll see what I can do. All right, thanks for the info. We still got people watching too, so I don't know. If you I don't know if you decide to hit up, I guess I'll still be here, talking to the people that's listening or whatever. You got 4 or 5 people watching.
Well, the people, 4 are watching.
But
yeah.
me,
Anyway, but I'll have to go anyway. So, I'm glad that we were able to talk with Tanya, and so that was really good.
Right.
Yeah, man. Just let me know how things go on your end.
Yeah, good. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna have to end this because I gotta call a friend. Something just came up. I'll talk to you later, though, General.
All right. God bless everyone.
All right. Talk to you later, guys.